My First Bible presents Israel's family went to live in Egypt thanks to Joseph. They lived there for hundreds of years. They multiplied in quantity as time passed, and because there were so many, Israel's family members were known as Israelites or Hebrews. Many years later, an evil man came into power as Pharaoh. He didn't care about everything Joseph had accomplished in Egypt. He did not like Israelites. Because they were so many, the Pharaoh was worried that they would come together and start a war against the Egyptians. Because of this, he made the Israelites work very hard for him. He turned them all into slaves. And later, he had the idea to kill all the Israelite male babies.
Oh my God!
So that these people could not continue to grow. There was a man from Levi's tribe who married a woman from his own tribe. And they had a beautiful baby boy. They did everything in their power so that their son could live. For 3 months, they were able to keep the baby hidden. But they knew they were running out of time. "There has to be something we can do to save him," the wife said to her husband. Night after night, they prayed to come up with an idea. Their other children, Miriam and Aaron, prayed with them. Then, the family had an idea. The mother of the baby wove a wicker basket. They took the baby, wrapped him in soft cloth, and put him in the basket. Miriam and her mother took the basket to the Nile River. They put it at the water's edge, and the basket floated down the river. The baby's sister, Miriam, stayed at a distance to see what would happen to him. At that very moment, the Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the Nile. Her maidens, meanwhile, strolled along the riverbank. Suddenly, the Pharaoh's daughter saw the basket among the reeds and ordered one of her maidens to retrieve it. When she brought the basket over, upon opening it, the girls exclaimed when they saw the crying baby. "He must be a Hebrew baby," said the princess. She knew that her father, the Pharaoh, had ordered all Hebrew baby boys to be killed. She showed compassion and said, "It seems like he's hungry. Is there something we can give him?" Miriam had been observing all of this. She wanted the princess to save her little brother's life. So she ran towards the princess and said to her, "I know a Hebrew woman who can feed him. Do you want me to go get her so she can feed for the child for you?" "Yes." "Go get her," said the princess. "Once he can eat on his own, she can bring him back to me, and I will raise him as my own son." "What will the baby be named?" asked one of the maidens. "Moses. He'll be named Moses, because I found him in the water." It was like that the boy's mother took him and cared for him. When he was old enough, she returned him to the Pharaoh's daughter, and she adopted him as her son. When Moses grew, he knew he was Hebrew and not Egyptian. Every time he saw that his people were treated like slaves, he would become very angry. "It isn't fair," he would say to the princess. "We cannot go against the Pharaoh's orders. He is the king." One day, while Moses was walking, he saw an Egyptian who was hitting a Hebrew slave. Moses was desperate. He looked around, but saw no one. "No, leave him alone," he shouted. Moses hit the Egyptian hard, and he fell dead onto the sand. Then Moses buried him right there. The next day, Moses went out to walk again, and he saw two Hebrews fighting each other. "Hey, why are you hitting your friend?" The Hebrews noticed the fancy clothes Moses was wearing. "Who are you to tell us not to fight?" he replied. "Are you planning on killing me like you killed the Egyptian?" This caused Moses to feel scared. So he thought, if these two slaves know that I killed the Egyptian, who else knows? The Pharaoh will send for me to be killed. I should leave Egypt, and soon.
Oh my God.
And indeed, the Pharaoh found out what happened and ordered for Moses to be killed. Moses arrived in a land called Midian. And there is where God's plans for Moses will begin. After a long journey, Moses was able to escape from the Pharaoh, and he made it to a land called Midian. There, Moses laid down near a well to rest. At that moment, 7 young girls arrived who sought to get water from the well to give to their sheep. However, the shepherds who then got there mistreated them and stopped them from drinking water from the well. "The well is ours. Get away from here," they said. "The well is our father's. It doesn't belong to you," they responded. Watching everything that was happening, Moses decided to intervene to help the young ladies and defend them from the shepherds. Then, he helped the girls take water out of the well and give the sheep a drink. The girls were the daughters of a priest in Midian named Jethro. Jethro was Hebrew, but he was a good man who loved God very much. When his daughters made it home, Jethro asked them, "Why have you come back so soon?" "Because an Egyptian stranger helped us and got rid of the shepherds for us. He even got water out of the well for the flock to drink," they responded. "And where is this man?" he asked. "Why did you leave him alone? Invite him over to eat with us." The girls found Moses and invited him to dine with them. Jethro, seeing that Moses was a good person, offered to let him live in his house, and Moses accepted. A few days later, Moses and one of Jethro's daughters, named Zipporah, fell in love and got married. Eventually, they had 2 children. One was named Gershom, and the other Eliezer. A lot of time passed, and then the king of Egypt died, and a new pharaoh came into power. The Israelites thought they would stop being slaves. But it was quite the opposite. It turned out to be much worse.
Oh no.
They continued to be upset with their condition as slaves. They cried out to God for help. They thought that God had abandoned them. One day, on Mount Horeb, Moses was taking care of Jethro's sheep, when suddenly he saw something very strange. On a mountain, he saw a bush called bramble set on fire. Moses noted that the bush was not burning up and said, "Wow, how incredible! I'm going to see why the bush isn't burning." Then Moses heard a voice calling to him, "Moses!" "Huh? I am here." "Moses, don't go any closer," said the voice. "Take off your sandals, because you are standing on holy ground." "Who are you?" "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." When Moses heard this, he fell to the ground. He was scared to look at God. And God said to him, "I see how cruelly the Egyptians treat my people. The time has come to save them. I will bring them back to the land that I promised Abraham and Isaac, a beautiful land, good and spacious, a land where there is an abundance of milk and honey. I am referring to the country of Canaan. So prepare yourself to leave, Moses. I am sending you to the Pharaoh so that you may free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt." Moses said to him, But, who am I? I'm not important enough to tell the Pharaoh to let our people leave Egypt. I will be with you." But the Israelites won't believe that I'm speaking for you," said Moses. "What will I say to them if they ask me what your name is? What will I respond?" God said to him, "I am who I am. That is my name. I am has sent me. That's what you will say to the people. Tell them that the God who chose them as a special people has sent you." Moses did not feel ready to do what God was asking of him. He tried to come up with many excuses. What if they don't believe me when I tell them who you are? Then what do I do? "The Israelite elders and leaders will believe you," said God. "And to prove that I am with you, ask the Pharaoh to all you to take my people to the desert for a 3-day journey to worship me. I know very well that the Pharaoh will not accept this. So then I will show my power by punishing all the Egyptians." Moses said, "But what if they still don't listen to me?" God asked him, "What do you have in your hand?" "My rod," he answered. "Throw it to the ground," he said. Moses let it fall to the ground, and it transformed into a serpent. Moses tried to run away from it, but God commanded him to grab it by its tail. When Moses grabbed the serpent, it once again turned into the rod in his own hands.
Wow.
"Now, bring your hand to your chest." Moses brought his hand to his chest, and when he took it off, his hand was covered with leprosy. "Bring it to your chest again," insisted God. Once again, Moses brought his hand to his chest, and when he took it off, it was on the rest of his body. "If the first miracle isn't enough to make them believe you or listen to you," said God, "then maybe they'll believe you with the second." "Oh, Lord, I'm not good at talking. I am slow to speak and clumsy with my tongue." It is very difficult for me to talk, insisted Moses. Moses tried to come up with all the excuses imaginable so that God would send another person. Moses! God became angry with Moses and said, I will send your brother Aaron. He will meet you and go with you. He is a good talker. Aaron will speak to the people for you. You will tell him everything I say to you. Don't forget to take that rod with you, because with it, you'll perform miraculous signals. Finally, Moses did not have any excuses left. He obeyed God and left from there. He took his family, said goodbye to his father-in-law.
Okay.
Bye.
Moses and his family began the journey back to Egypt. Moses carried a rod in his hand, which would be the tool God would use to demonstrate his power to the Israelites and Egyptians. Moses went towards Egypt, just as God had ordered. On the way, Moses found his brother Aaron, and they greeted each other. Aaron told him that God spoke to him, telling him to go meet Moses in the desert. Moses told his brother everything that God had ordered him to say, and all the miracles he had commanded him to perform. When they finally made it to Egypt, Moses and Aaron gathered all the Israelites. Aaron, on top of repeating everything God had said to Moses, also performed the miracles for all the people to see. He told them that God had been watching over them and that he had seen their affliction. The Israelites believed him, bowed down, and worshipped God. After that, Moses and Aaron presented themselves before the Pharaoh and said to him, "This is what the Lord, God of Abraham, has said. Let my people go so they can worship me for 3 days in the desert." The Pharaoh said, no. Who is that God for me to obey and let the Hebrews go? I will not let the people leave. The God of the Hebrews has come out to meet us, they told him. So we must make a 3-day journey to the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. Otherwise, he will punish the Egyptians with plagues. Why are you distracting the people from their jobs? You aren't letting them work, said the Pharaoh.
Blah, blah, blah.
And he kicked the men out. That same day, the Pharaoh forced the Israelites to work even harder so that they wouldn't be able to listen to Moses and Aaron.
Blah, blah, blah.
Upon seeing this, Moses prayed, "Oh Lord, why do you treat my people so poorly? This is why you sent me? Ever since I came before the Pharaoh and spoke your name, he hasn't done anything but mistreat my people. You haven't done anything to free them." And God said to him, "Since the Pharaoh did not let them leave, I will demonstrate my power. They will know that I am God." Moses argued with God, "And how is the Pharaoh going to listen to me if I am so clumsy to speak?" God told him that everything was okay. He reminded Moses that he was not the one who needed to speak. It was his brother, Aaron. He let Moses know that when the Pharaoh said no, God would go into action, and all the Egyptians would know that he is the Lord. Once again, Moses and Aaron presented themselves before the Pharaoh. The Lord told Moses, "When the Pharaoh asks you to perform a miracle, you'll tell Aaron to take his rod and lower it to the ground before the Pharaoh. Then the rod will become a serpent.
Blah, blah, blah. Miracle.
That is what Moses
Blah, blah.
did. And Aaron's rod became a serpent.
Nah.
However, the Pharaoh called the Egyptian wise men, magicians, and sorcerers to do the same.
Pata de cabra.
Each of their rods also turned into serpents. Still, Aaron's serpent ate the others. Despite this, the Pharaoh's heart hardened even more, and he didn't allow for the people to be free. God told Moses that because the Pharaoh wouldn't accept, it was time to act. God told them to go to the Nile River when the Pharaoh went out to bathe. God told them what to do. Once there, Moses, through Aaron, said to the Pharaoh, "The God of the Hebrews has sent me to tell you, let my people go to worship me in the desert. But since you didn't want to obey me, the Lord says, now you will know that I am the Lord." Aaron struck the Nile River with his rod. Immediately, the river and all the water in Egypt transformed into blood. All the streams, wells, and ponds were filled with blood.
Oh my god.
The fish died, and the river smelled rotten. Even then, the Pharaoh still did not let the people leave.
No.
The Pharaoh called his magicians and sorcerers to get rid of the plague.
Well.
But God would only get rid of it when Moses asked. A few days later, Moses and Aaron once again asked the Pharaoh to let their people leave. They warned that more plagues would come, but the Pharaoh was very prideful. He did not let them leave.
No.
God sent 9 more plagues to the country of Egypt. The plague of frogs. Thousands of frogs came out of the river. "Please, tell your God to end this plague," said the Pharaoh.
Okay.
"Will you let my people go?" "No."
Well.
The plague of lice. The dust of the earth turned into lice and attacked the Egyptians. "Stop it! Will you let my people go?" "No!"
Very well.
The plague of flies. Thousands of flies attacked the Egyptians. Moses asked, "Well?" "No!"
As well. Blah, 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 blah.
The plague among the cattle. All the Egyptian animals died. Because the Pharaoh refused, more plagues came. The plague of ulcers. The plague of hail. The plague of locusts. The plague of darkness. God caused the sun to stop rising for 3 days in Egypt. There was darkness throughout the entire country. Despite this, the Pharaoh still refused to let the people leave. Finally, the last plague came. The Pharaoh was so angry that he didn't want to listen to Moses and Aaron. God had warned Moses about the 10th and final plague, the one that would make the Pharaoh release the people of Israel. Moses said to the Pharaoh, "If you do not agree to free the people, the eldest son of every family will die, whether they are poor or rich, freemen or slaves. The first offspring of every animal will also die. However, the children of Hebrew families will be safe." The Pharaoh decided not to believe in the power of God. He closed off his mind and said, "This will never be able to happen. I am the king of Egypt. Get out of here," he shouted at Moses. "You were warned, Pharaoh. You could have avoided all of this. All you had to do was let the Israelites go, yelled Moses. Get out! And Moses backed away from the Pharaoh. The people of Israel feared the last plague. When they heard what God was going to do, they asked, "How will we be safe?" Moses told them, "God will protect us if that night we all obey what he told us to do." Moses and Aaron explained everything God had told them. Everyone should take a clean lamb, paint the doorframe of your house with the blood of the lamb that they will then eat. That way, when the angel of death passes through Egypt, he will know which houses to leave safe. He will know where the people of Israel live and who obeyed God's orders. The night of the last plague was called Passover. Moses and Aaron told the people that they would remember that night. They would have feasts eating lamb and bread, and they must tell the stories of everything that happened to all the following generations. At midnight, the angel of death took all the firstborns, but did not enter the houses marked with blood. That night, there was great sadness throughout the land of Egypt.
Blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah.
When the Pharaoh discovered that his son had died, he had no choice but to summon Moses and Aaron. "Leave here," said the Pharaoh. "Leave my land and go serve your God like you wanted. Take all your belongings and don't come back. And please, tell your God to bless me too." And so, they left. The Egyptian people gifted the Israelites with valuable objects, so they could leave their land as soon as possible. Because they said, "If they stay here, we can consider ourselves dead." After 400 years, the people of Israel left Egypt.
Hey!
The Pharaoh felt frustrated and humiliated, and he decided not to sit idly by. The Israelites left from Egypt, and they made their way towards the city that God had promised to them, Canaan. More than 600,000 people went by foot, without counting the children. People from other countries, and 6 large herds of animals also traveled with them. They had little food. Since they had been thrown out of Egypt, they did not have enough time to prepare. During his stay in Egypt, Moses found Joseph's bones and took them with him because Joseph had told the Israelites, "You can all count on God to come and help. When that happens, take my remains with you." And that is what they did. God showed the people of Israel the way. During the day, he guided them using a pillar of cloud. And at night, it became a pillar of fire to illuminate the way. With this, they were able to travel during the day and night. The pillar of cloud never stopped guiding them during the day, nor did the pillar of fire during the night. The people of Israel had a long journey through many different lands. They had lived in a land called Goshen, in the country of Egypt. They left from the city of Ramesses in the direction of Sukkot. God didn't take them the short way because the path went through the land of the Philistines. God said that if they went that way, the Philistines would attack them, and the people would change their minds and want to go back to Egypt. So he led them along the desert road. The Israelites set out from Sukkot and camped at Etam, where the desert begins. From that day on, the Lord guided them through columns of clouds and fire. Later, he ordered them to camp before a land called Pi Hahiroth, which was next to the Red Sea. He guided them there because God had a plan. In Egypt, the Pharaoh was very angry with the Israelites. He discovered where they were and thought they were lost in the desert. He and his officials had changed their minds about letting them go free, saying, "How could we have let the Israelites leave and abandon their work? Now who's going to construct our buildings and make the bricks?" At that moment, the Pharaoh ordered his chariot and an army to prepare to go after the Israelites. He took with him 600 of the best chariots, each under the command of an officer. The Pharaoh and his army, horses, chariots, horsemen, and Egyptian troops went after the Israelites. The Israelites, with a triumphant attitude, camped on the shore of the Red Sea, and God told Moses, "The Pharaoh is coming after you all, but he and his army will think you are trapped in the sea. This will be another opportunity for me to show my power. The Egyptians will know that I am God." The Israelites were happily camping, but something was wrong. Those who were at the edge of the camp could feel vibrations in the ground. They looked up and saw that a cloud of dust was coming towards them. Ah! The Pharaoh is chasing us!
What?
They were all there, unable to move anywhere besides the sea. "We are trapped!" they screamed. They shouted to Moses, "What have you done to us? You took us out of Egypt so that we could be killed in the desert? We would have been better off as slaves. That way, we would at least be alive." "Don't be afraid," responded Moses. "We are not trapped. God will fight for us. Those Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. All you must do is stay calm. Trust in God." The people did not believe what Moses was saying, and they began to panic. "We are going to die!" The Israelites ran from one side of the campground to the other. They saw the Egyptians were getting closer. Moses tried to calm the people, but they were far too scared to listen to what he was saying. God said to them, "Why are you crying like this?" And so, the pillar that had been guiding them was put in front of the Egyptian army to stop them from moving forward. God told Moses what to do. "Go towards the Red Sea and raise your rod." Moses lifted his rod. A strong wind from God blew over the water, and soon the sea parted into two. A path formed between the two walls of water. The people and all their sheep and livestock walked between the waves. They could hardly believe what was happening. For them, the sea had become a wall of water to their right and another to their left.
Oh my God.
In the morning, everyone was safe on the other side of the shore. The Pharaoh's army continued to chase after the Israelites. "If they can cross through dry land in the middle of the sea, we can too," said the Pharaoh. And the Egyptian army launched itself along the route. They were halfway there, between the two coasts, when God told Moses, "Raise your rod again." Moses lifted his rod above the sea, and the water returned to its normal state. The carriages, the horses, and the Egyptian army were dragged into the water. The entire army had entered to chase after the Israelites. Not one of them survived. Upon seeing that they were safe, the Israelites celebrated. They thanked God, saying, "Yes, God will be our guide." They all believed in God and in his servant, Moses. And this is how God saved the Israelites from the Egyptian army. After crossing the Red Sea and being rescued from the Egyptian army, the Israelites danced and sang songs in honor of God. They were very happy to be safe. Moses and his sister Miriam sang about how God had saved them from the Egyptians. They played instruments and danced happily.
Hey, hey!
Then the day came for them to continue their journey. They continued to follow the pillar of cloud from God. They walked through the desert for 3 days. During that time, they couldn't find any water to drink. They arrived at Marah. The place was called this because the waters were bitter and bad. If they drank that water, they would get sick. Seeing the water and knowing they couldn't drink it only made them thirstier. Then the people began to murmur against Moses, and they asked, "What are we going to drink? We are dying of thirst. In Egypt, we had water, fruit, and fish. Here, we have nothing." Moses cried out to God, and he showed him a piece of wood. Moses threw the wood into the water, and the water instantly became sweet. The people jumped into the water and drank. Moses told them, "Always remember that God really takes care of us." Then the Israelites made it to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees. They camped there, close to the water. Soon came the time to continue the journey, and they reached the desert of Sin. It had been almost 2 months since they started traveling from Egypt. Once again, the people started to complain. They didn't like the burning hot sun. They didn't like the lack of water and food. They all complained. The community murmured against Moses and Aaron. "What did you do to us? There is nothing to eat here. Now we will die of hunger. Everything is your fault. We were better off in Egypt." "God will protect us," said Moses. "Trust in him." But the people didn't pay attention to him. Then God said to Moses, "I'm going to give you bread from heaven in the mornings and meat in the evenings. And I'm going to put you to the test to see whether you follow my instructions. The people should come out every day to pick up their daily rations. But on the 6th day, they will pick up a double portion, and they should save that for the following day." Moses and Aaron explained what God had said to the Israelites. That same afternoon, the camp was filled with quail. They all ate. The next morning, the land was covered with drops of dew. When the sun dried the dew, the people saw that there were white flakes of bread. Since the Israelites didn't know what it was, they asked each other, "What is this?" "This is the bread God gave us to eat. Try it and eat it." The people called it manna, which means, "What is this?" Afterwards, Moses explained the instructions that God had given them. Every morning, you will find manna on the campsite. Pick it up early and gather enough for each day. Don't save any for the following day. However, some people didn't listen to Moses. They tried to save some manna for the next day. The following morning, the manna they had saved had spoiled and smelled bad. The people who were lazy would not pick up enough manna for the entire day. The sun came out and melted the manna that was at the camp. These people stayed hungry until the next day. On Friday, Moses told the people to pick up enough manna for 2 days, because God was not going to send them any on Saturday. Some people didn't listen. Because the manna had gone bad the other times they saved it, they thought it would spoil and be a waste the following day. However, it was not like this. And on Saturday, no manna appeared at the camp. At the end of the first week, the Israelites understood that they should follow God's instructions exactly to have fresh food every day. The entire community left the desert of Sin and camped in a land called Rephidim, but there was no water there to drink. And so, they urged Moses, "Give us water to drink." The Israelites were thirsty and spoke against Moses. "Why did you take us out of Egypt only to make us die of thirst?" And so Moses cried out to the Lord, and he said, "What will I do with these people? All that remains is for them to stone me to death." God told Moses to strike the hill near Horeb with his rod, and water would flow from it for the people to drink. And so Moses did. There were people called the Amalekites who attacked the Israelites. Moses ordered a young man named Joshua to choose some men to fight them. In the meantime, Moses would be at the top of a hill with his rod, crying out to God. Joshua followed the orders. A group of men went off, looked for the weapons that they had taken from Egypt, and they went to battle the Amalekites.
But we don't know how to fight.
Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and a man called Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But as time passed, Moses' arms got tired. So the Amalekites were winning. Seeing that Moses was tired, Aaron and Hur brought a stone and put it under him so that he could sit. Then Aaron and Hur held his arms so that Moses could remain steady until sunset. And that's how the Israelites defeated the Amalekite army. Days later, since Moses was the only leader, he had to solve all the Israelites' problems. there was a long line of people who wanted advice from Moses. This happened until Moses was told he had visitors. When Moses came out to greet them, he saw it was his father-in-law, Jethro, his wife, Zipporah, and his 2 children, Gershom and Eleazar. Zipporah and the children had returned to their land, Midian, before reaching Egypt, and her father had taken them in. Moses was very happy to see his family and father-in-law again. Jethro told Moses that he had heard about everything God had done for Moses and the people of Israel, and the way he had gotten them out of Egypt. He exclaimed, "Blessed be the Lord, who freed you from the hands of the Egyptians and from the hand of the Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods." Then they had a feast to celebrate. The next day, Moses continued with his role as judge of the people. Seeing that Moses had a lot of work to do, Jethro said to him, "What you are doing is not okay, Moses. You have too much work. You shouldn't do everything by yourself, because you and the people around you will get tired of it. The task is too heavy for you." And he advised him, "You should choose a group of capable people who love God and despise ill-gotten gains, and appoint them as leaders to help you. Let them handle the easy problems full-time, and the hard cases they can bring to you. That will lighten your load, because they will help you carry it. If you do this, and God commands you to do so, you will be able to endure it. The people, on their end, will go home satisfied." Moses listened to his father-in-law and followed his suggestions. Later, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his land, Midian. Then the Israelites set out for the Sinai desert, the place where God would give the commandments to the Israelites. And that is where God establishes his mandates. The Israelites arrived at Mount Sinai 3 months after leaving Egypt. They all camped in front of an enormous mountain. Moses knew God wanted to meet him there, so he went up. And from there, God called upon him and said, "Moses, make an announcement to the people of Israel, saying that if they obey me and keep my covenant, they will be my special people among all the nations. Although all the land belongs to me, you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation to me." Moses came down from the mountain. He gathered the leaders of the people and told them what God had said to him. "The Lord has chosen us as a special group of people. Will you follow him? Will you obey him?" Everyone responded in unison,
1, 2, and 3.
"We will do everything God says." And so Moses took the people's response to God. And God said to him, "I'm going to present myself before you through a dense cloud. This way, the people will hear me speak to you, and will therefore always have faith in you. Go to the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow. Tell them to wash their clothes and to prepare for the 3rd day, because that is the day I will descend on Mount Sinai for all the people to see. Tell them not to go up the mountain, and not even to set foot on it, because anyone who dares to touch it will die. They can only go up the mountain when they hear the trumpet."
Okay.
Moses went back down and did everything God had asked, and the people obeyed. When the morning of the 3rd day came, there was thunder and lightning, and a dense cloud passed over Mount Sinai. A loud trumpet blast made everyone in the crowd tremble. all the Israelites came out to see what was happening. The people could hear the sound, but they couldn't see where it was coming from. God spoke, and he stated the commandments. I am Jehovah, your God. I took you out of Egypt, the country where you were slaves. Do not have any gods other than me. You will not bow to them.
Blah, 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 blah.
You shall not take the name of your God in vain. I am the Lord. I will not treat anyone who dares to use my name falsely as innocent. Remember the Sabbath day in order to keep it holy. You will work 6 days where you can do everything you need to do. However, the seventh day will be a day of rest to honor the Lord your God. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may enjoy a long life on the land that the Lord your God gave to you. You will not kill. You will not commit adultery. You will not steal. Do not take anything that isn't yours. You will not lie. Don't say false things. And you shall not covet anything of your neighbor. Among the spectacle of thunder and lightning, sounds of a trumpet, and the mountain of smoke, the Israelites trembled with fear, and they maintained their distance. Moses told the people, "Come, everybody! God wants to meet with all of us." But they begged Moses, "You go! Then you talk to us, and we will listen, Moses. If God speaks to us, we will probably die." "Don't be scared," responded Moses. "God has come to put you to the test, so that you may fear him and not sin." But the Israelites refused. God listened to the people, and he gave Moses an order. "Tell the Israelites the following. You have heard me from the heavens. Don't make gods of silver or gold. Do not worship them. Just make an earthen altar, so that you can make offerings of your sheep or your bulls in my name, and I will bless you. You, Moses, come up here onto the mountain with me, so that I can tell you all the commandments, statutes, and judgments that you will have to teach the people, so that they can fulfill them on the land that I will give them."
Okay.
Moses did as he was told. Joshua accompanied Moses for a portion of the journey, and he promised to wait there for him. Once there, God and Moses had a long conversation. In detail, God explained the commandments and handed Moses 2 stone tablets, on which God himself had written the laws. Then, God explained about the worship towards him and how the people should behave. All this would help to make Israel a nation of justice and generosity, to be different from other nations. God also tells Moses that he wants his holy, divine, and good presence to come and dwell among the Israelite people. Then, God explained in detail the clothing of the priests and the architectural plans to build a sacred tent, which he called the tabernacle. The tabernacle was to have a patio outside with an altar and a tent with a room in the center. Inside the room, that is called the Holy of Holies, there was a golden box called the Ark of the Covenant, which would have angelic scriptures on it, each detail with symbols that represent the Garden of Eden, the place where God and humans lived together.
Wow.
A lot of time passed while all of this was happening. The people were waiting and waiting for Moses to come down from the mountain. Since he wasn't appearing, they thought Moses had died. Again, they decided to not trust in God. And so, they said to Aaron, "Moses is surely dead. We want a god to worship." "Yes, the Egyptians have gods of gold. Why should ours be invisible? I told you all to wait a bit longer, said Aaron. Moses will come back. We won't wait any longer. We want a God now!
Ah.
Look for all the gold you can find and bring it to me. Many Israelites searched for gold and brought it to Aaron. Aaron melted them down and built an idol in the shape of a calf. Then he exclaimed to his people, Israel, here you have your gods who brought you out of Egypt. The next day, the Israelites woke up early and had feasts to honor the golden calf. They danced, sang, and drank.
Yeah.
It had been 40 days since Moses had gone up the mountain. God told him that something terrible had happened. The people had forgotten their promise. God was very sad and angry. Moses, go down now. The people have already been corrupted. Too soon they have strayed from the path I ordered them to follow. I have realized that they are a stubborn group. They have created an idol and bowed down to it. I will punish each one of them. But I will make a great nation out of you. Moses begged God to forgive them. He reminded God of the promise of his servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. And so, God calmed down and decided not to punish the people. Moses descended the mountain and brought with him the stone tablet that had the 10 Commandments written on them. When Joshua heard the noise and screams of the people, he said, I can hear war cries coming from the camp. But Moses responded, they are not war cries. Actually, what you heard were songs. When Moses saw the golden calf, he burned with anger. Amid his fury, he threw the 2 tablets onto the ground, making them break into pieces. You are an evil people! He took the calf they had made, threw it, and ground it to powder. How can you do this after everything God has done for you? Screamed Moses. My brother, don't be mad, answered Aaron. These people are out of control. They asked me to make them a god to worship because they thought you had died.
Blah 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 blah.
Moses sent for the people who had worshipped the calf to be punished. After some time, Moses climbed the mountain again to beg God to forgive his people. These people have committed a huge sin by worshiping a false god. But still, I'm begging you to forgive them. If you will not forgive them, erase me from the book you have written. Only those who have sinned against me will be erased from my book, said God, and I will continue to guide your people. And he added, carve 2 stone tablets just like the ones you broke. I'm going to write the same thing that was written on the first ones. Prepare to go up tomorrow and present yourself before me.
Okay.
And that is what Moses did. Very early in the morning, Moses once again went up the mountain. God descended from the cloud and came next to Moses. Moses fell to the ground. The glory of God was too great. Moses kept his eyes closed and repeated over and over how great God was. And once again, he begged God to forgive his people and continue to regard them as his chosen people.
Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Blah blah blah.
God said yes, and then renewed his promise. He promised to take the people of Israel to the land that he had told to Abraham, And for a second time, God told Moses the commandments for the people, and he wrote them on the tablets. And Moses stayed on the mountain with God 40 days and 40 nights, without eating or drinking anything. This time, the people had been waiting for Moses to return. They had been good. When Moses descended Mount Sinai, he brought with him the 2 stone tablets that had the commandments. But there was something strange. The Israelites asked themselves what that light was that was approaching. As it got closer, they realized it was Moses. The Israelites were scared to approach him. Moses' face shone like sunlight. But Moses didn't know that because he spoke with God, light came from his face.
Oh my God.
A demonstration of the glory of God. Moses told the people everything God had told him on Mount Sinai. And through the commandments, the people would know how to obey God.
Comment and subscribe below.